What's up everyone? Today I'm going to show you my process for color grading anything quickly in DaVinci Resolve 18.6. And did I mention it's all free for everyone? So let's get into it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to drag in the clip, and we already got the clip in here, and we're going to go over here, down here to the color tab. And in the color tab you'll see this one node, lonely node hanging out right here, and that is going to be our starter node. And we're going to have 5 of those nodes, and I'll tell you exactly why in just a minute. So if you hit Alt plus S, Alt S, that will be the way to get more nodes. So we have 5 total nodes at the moment. We're going to grab these back 2 just by selecting out here and dragging. They're going to move them off to the side, and I'll tell you why in just a little bit. And I'm going to move these ones over here. But for the first node, we're going to right click on it and hit Node Label, and we're going to name this one Luminance. And then we're going to name this next one Saturation, and so on and so forth. This one will be called Look. This one over here will be called Tint, and this last one will be called Contrast and Pivot. So the purpose of nodes is they build on each other. So we start with Luminance and Saturation and the Look, just to get everything kind of a baseline, and then we'll add all of the other ingredients on top. Whatever values you put in for the Luminance node, it will feed into the Saturation node, and then whatever values you put into the Saturation node, both the Luminance and the Saturation will feed into the Look node, and so on and so forth. Now that we're on our color tab, let's click our little color wheel icon over here. It's going to come up with 4 different color wheels. The first is the lift, the gamma, and the gain, and the offset. So the lift is pretty much your lows, which is all the dark areas in your lighting. The gamma is all the midtones, all the midtone colors and lighting, and the gain is all of your highs, like the brightness of everything. And your offset is the color wheel that you can use to raise all of the lows, mediums, and highs up at the same time. So lift, gamma, and gain will all be lifted and used at the exact same time. So you can use this to adjust brightness with these wheels down here, or you could adjust the colors in the lows, you can adjust the colors in the mids, or you can adjust the colors in the highs, or you can adjust the colors all around with the offset. We're not going to mess with any colors right now. First, we want to start by going into the Look node. I always start from the Look node, and I increase over here the midtone detail to 80%. That's my secret sauce. It just makes everything look so much more crispy. So this is with the crispiness on it, and this is without the crispiness. There's a major difference. I love the sharpening that it has. By the way, to go full screen like that, you just hit Shift plus F. If you ever want to see what your footage looked like before you did any edits, you just hit Alt plus D, and that will turn off all of your nodes, and you'll be able to see what it used to look like. We go into the Luminance node. And in the Luminance node, I'm going to edit over here in our scopes. We want to make sure all the highs in our scopes don't exceed 1023, and we want to make sure all the lows in our scopes don't go below 0. Otherwise, the blacks will be too blown out if you go below 0, and all the whites will be too blown out if you go above 1, 0, 2, 3 with your highs. So it's kind of a little bit of fine tuning, which is what I'm going to start with now. Let's go with the highs. Let's bring those up as high as we need to get them to go before they start flatlining. That's about good right there. And then we're going to go to our lows, and we're going to drop them pretty low. I'm actually going to crush them just a little bit, and all the blacks, if you notice over here, turn very black. The reason I'm doing that is because when I increase the midtones, it brings up my lows just a bit. My scope is looking pretty good over here on both my red, green, and blue. Everything is pretty nice. There's only slight crushing on the blacks, but I kind of like that in a way. Next, we move on to the saturation node. And down here in the saturation box, we're going to double click in it, and we're going to type in, let's say 75%. And boom, immediately the skin tones and everything turn much more saturated, which is awesome. Next, we're going to go over here to the contrast node at the very end and just add a little bit of contrast to kind of see what we're working with and make our subject pop a little bit more. So this is our base right now where we're at for our color grade. Next, we want to take the individual colors and start adjusting them. Let's start with everything green. So off of the Look node, the reason I put a big space in between is because we're going to add more nodes in between that. Hit Alt S, and we're going to drag that node down here. And on that node, we're going to label it, and we're going to label this one greens. And then we want to be able to select just the greens and not everything in the picture, so we're going to have another layer connected to this node. So So we're going to right click on that node. We're going to go to add node and hit add layer. From look, it feeds into two different nodes, which then feed together and get baked in this node into one color. This is very important in this step. If I want to be able to edit the greens, I have to select the bottom node, not like node number 5, not node number 4. So in node number 5, we are going to click on our little color selector over here, and we are going to click Shift plus H. If you don't click Shift plus H, you won't be able to tell what colors you're selecting. Once you have Shift plus H selected, I can start selecting the greens. And you can either click once, and that's what it gives you, those little tiny greens, or you can kind of click and hold, and it will start selecting a bunch of different colors for you. And I only really want to select a certain amount of greens, so you got to kind of fine tune this once you find what you want, because I don't really want to select any skin tones, because pretty much whatever colors are selected is what is going to be edited, and we got to be very careful just to edit the greens. That looks pretty good right there. That looks like all the greens that we want to be editing. That's at least the light greens at the moment. So now we're going to hit Shift plus H again to look at everything normal. As you see down here, all of our greens are still selected. I'm just toggling between Shift H and normal. In order to edit those, we're going to go back over here to our color wheel. Most of those greens are in the mid-tone regions. They're not too bright and not too dark. So I'm going to edit those colors here on the gamma wheel, because that's the mid-tone wheel. I'm going to drag them just a little bit more vibrantly green. I'm not sure if you can see the difference too much, but it just makes those greens pop a little more. If I hit full screen, you'll see the greens are much greener than they were to begin with. So if I hit Alt-D, you'll see, wow, boring and flat. And now, boom, looking beautiful. To feed from the greens, we're going to try to grab some of the darker greens now. So let's actually rename this one to say light greens. So we're going to hit Alt-S, create another node. We're going to label this one dark greens, and we're going to create a layer off of that node. Remember, you right click on the node to create the layer. So now we go back into our color tab. We are going to try to select just the dark greens, which might be difficult because there's a lot of things that include dark green in here. So I'm going to hit Shift H, and then we're going to try to select just the darker shades of green. Oh, look at that. We almost got it perfect. It's actually grabbing some of her face and eyes. We don't really want that to be green, so we have to be careful where we find the dark. Oop, that's not it. That's not too bad, actually. There's a way that we can mess around where we can maybe get rid of this area in her eyes and whatnot, so we don't have to do that. Down here in our hue levels, we can adjust it a little bit until possibly, oh, look at that. Her face kind of goes away. I'm going to do it about right there, so we can grab just all the dark greens in the image. And then I'm going to hit Shift H again, and we're going to go back over to our color wheel, and we're going to take our lows, because those are dark, and we're going to make those a bit green as well. See how it changes everything in our image from kind of bland green to a much more rich green in the dark areas? That is what we are looking for. Make it nice and rich. All right, cool. Next, we're going to add another node. This one I'm going to do for reds. Actually, let's do skin first. So Alt-S, another node, and I'm just going to label this one skin, because skin is always important to make vibrant and beautiful. And then we're going to add another node with a layer. We're going to go to our dropper, Shift H, and we're going to grab her skin. Now the thing about skin is skin always contains red, so you got to be careful. You don't want to grab too much of what's around you in the skin tone one. So honestly, this is looking pretty good. There's a little bit of green selected for some reason. I don't really understand how that happened, but this actually looks good right here. I don't have any green selected, pretty much just browns and reds, and a little bit on her hair. So let me see if I can mess with the hue just a little bit. That's not too bad. See, we're grabbing all the reds with the skin. That actually might not be a bad idea, because skin usually coincides with red a lot. All right, let's go with that right there, because now her dress, we're not going to grab any of her dress. We're going to grab a little bit of her hair, and we're going to grab pretty much all of her skin, which is exactly what we want. So now we'll hit Shift H, and we'll go over here back to our color wheel, and we have to fine tune this one. Sometimes I use offset to do it because I want to get all the highlights of the lows, darks, and the highs. So I'm going to grab the offset and click and drag until I find a nice skin tone that I like. So maybe we'll go to the temperature wheel and see if we can just make just a little more tan. Ooh, look at that. That looks pretty. Ooh, nope, that's getting the Donald Trump stage. Let's go about right there. Look at that. That looks beautiful. That looks really good. We're going to go to our whites. We want to make our whites pop out to be a bit more white and not very tan like the rest of the picture. What we're actually going to do in this instance is we're going to go to the tint node first. We're going to make everything in this image nice and warm. So I'm going to go to the warm meter, and I'm going to bring that up with our tint. And as you notice, it kind of makes the whites in the sky look orange and her dress look orange, but everything else looks pretty and nice and warm, which is kind of what we're looking for. Since I said everything feeds into each other, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create another one of these layer nodes to edit the white off of the tint node. So if I select tint and hit Alt-S, another node will appear. I will name this one whites. So then everything except for the whites that I select will stay the same and the whites will only be affected. We'll still be able to keep that nice warm filter over the rest of it. Now we're going to add the layer node. There we go. And then in here, go back to our eyedropper tab, hit Shift-H and grab the whites. Oof, man, there's a lot of tan involved in these whites as well. So now if we grab our temperature bar and bring it down, it takes all that orangeness that was up here, and you can see it when I go full screen better, all the orangeness that you see up here, and we're going to turn it back to white because that's going to look aesthetically pleasing, I believe. Bring it back down until our white balance puts us pretty much at white again. There you go. We're pretty much there, like a bluish white, which is okay because the sky is supposed to be a bit blue. So now we have a wonderful video. So if we look at it in full screen, this is what it looks like before. And this is what it looks like after. Whether you're a beginner or whether you're advanced, I believe this is the easiest way to make your footage look good on a time crunch. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe and you'll see more awesome tutorials in the future. Bye.